Okay, I guess I'm ready. I'm just, good morning. Hello. How's it going? I've done a little bit of changes to my setup to hopefully make things work better, and be less in the way. After looking at Abaddon yesterday, I decided that, there's some things I want to change on him. Let's get rid of the starting soon right there. Um, well, by and large, I'm pretty happy with how the non-metallic metal gold turned out. There's definitely some spots that I want to clean up, especially since this is supposed to be a competition piece. Um, but yeah, by and large, he's turning out okay. It's just that because of how I had everything set up, I couldn't exactly see what I was doing half the time. So I've set the camera up a little better, which makes my viewing angle a little better, and now I can hopefully move on to a considerably nicer detail brush than what I've been using. This is going to be a Winsor & Newton, as opposed to the beat up Citadel brush I was using. So we'll see if this is going to be successful today, because today is going to be spent working a little bit on cleanup and then potentially finishing him up, because I don't have a whole lot of time to work on him for the rest of the week. I'm going to try and get as much done today as possible, but we will see. Now, I always get anxious whenever I use a new Winsor & Newton, because I tend to destroy them really quickly. So hopefully that won't be the case today. Let's see. I'm going to mix a little bit of that brown and yellow. Get some of that golden yellow again. See what I can do here. Been a while since I've used one of these brushes, especially one with as fine a tip as a Winsor & Newton, so it's going to take me a minute to reacclimate, and hopefully I'll be able to do so without losing too much of the work that I did yesterday, without ruining too much of the work I did, because the tip on this is infinitely finer than the one I was using. And hopefully the camera will stay in focus. That'd be awesome. So, some of that brown and yellow again. Touch up a little bit more of this. Yeah, there's definitely just a smidge too much pure white happening there, and that's kind of taken away from the gold look. Probably actually go all the way back down to the dark brown. Kind of redo this. In there. Oh, am I going to start hitting things again? Gosh darn it. That's okay. Eventually, I will get back to finding that kind of ideal section where I have my camera set up, and then I won't be hitting things with my headphones. But right now, we're just going to have to deal with that. So yeah, the Winsor & Newton brush is definitely better at holding a point and giving me much more precise control over what I'm doing than the previous brush I was using, but it's like retraining yourself, because you get used to using a sloppier brush with sloppier technique, and now I've got to figure out how to do this, because I tend to use brushes way beyond their actual useful date, and that leads to me kind of adopting techniques to make me be a little bit better with them and get the most out of them that I can. But it also leads to a lot of my paint jobs being a lot rougher than I'd like them to be. So hopefully I can work on this a little bit and refine it today and get back to using a more precise brush. Like I was saying, I really want the gold on this to look good and convincing, and I can't do that with how unrefined it all looked last night when I finished. So hopefully I can correct some of that today with some of my testing. Straight into ice white. or ice yellow. Ice yellow basically acts as a white highlight for a lot of this gold. I don't actually need to go much brighter. So I did pull out some pale sand, just in case I felt like I wasn't getting a bright enough gold out of this. Or bright enough highlight. Okay, so that already looks considerably better. Yes, I can go on to cleaning up something else that I feel needs it. Like in here, I think the transitions are a little bit sloppy since they were done with a much more worn out tip. I'm going to try and fix some of that with the nicer tip on the Winsor & Newton. And hopefully that'll clean up better. Because yeah, I managed to get a decent outline when I couldn't really see what I was doing, but I feel like I could make this look a whole lot nicer. That's kind of the plan right now, is to make some of the blends a little smoother, give it slightly better transitions than what it's got, and hopefully that will improve the look of the gold across the model. Because especially right here in this little knee scallop, everything looks very rough, and I'm not very fond of that. And I don't even know if that's going to be something the judges will look at when they judge this model, but it's not something I want them to notice when they're looking at it, you know. Give the judges less flaws to look at. But yeah, golly, I forgot how nice it was to work with a good, refined tip on the edge of a brush. There we go. Some of that going on. Pull up a little there. And again, I'm just kind of reconstructing my base, starting from that darker brown and going up spectrum for my gold. Right now I'm using an Abaddon Sunset. And eventually I'll go up to ice yellow, and potentially for the full highlight, a pale sand. But we'll see. We'll see how that ends up looking, because with non-metallic metal, if you've never done it before, there's always what I call the ugly phase, where everything's just kind of blocked in this horrifying color that is taking up most of the model until you've done enough, and you've done enough of the highlights, and then you realize, no, that's just kind of the mid-tone, and your actual highlights look really good. Let's hope I can get there with this today. Because trusting the ugly face has always been something I'm anxious about whenever I do any kind of detail work on the painting. Okay. A little bit there. A little bit there. And this is Abaddon Sunset mixed with, I think it's actually Dorn Yellow that I'm using kind of as a substitute for Ice Yellow. But it's giving kind of that same very, very bright white saturated yellow that looks really good as a highlight for a darker yellow. Okay, see if I can get that one to look okay. Same thing there, just kind of these sunburst scallops coming out. We'll then get a much nicer highlight in a second. Hopefully that's visible. Hopefully the camera has not messed me over too badly. Okay. Going straight into that Dorn Yellow, Ice Yellow highlight. Let's see what we can do here. First, highlight the stud. Go in there. A little bit there. a little bit in here. Because again, you just want this to be the brightest point. You're not trying to cover the previous layer with the entire highlight. But yeah, every time I stop using a Kolinsky sable brush and then go back to it, I'm always kind of in awe of how much nicer they feel compared to one of the artificial brushes. Again, covering slightly less ground than the previous layer. Show that this is where most of the light is concentrated on that specific part of the model. Go ahead and do some more highlighting down here as well. And see, right here it looks like it's lacking that transition between the dark brown to the light gold, and generally you don't need a very strong transition because light and dark tend to sit next to each other on metals. But I would like a little something to indicate that there's been a transition. Okay, now honestly, I'm not speaking on this with too much expertise. I'm still learning how to do things like non-metallic metal. But I'd like to think that after the amount of time I've done it, that I've gotten a little bit better at it. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out where I can put it in there to make it have the most impact in terms of light versus dark. And it looks like in some of these spots I might have gone just a little too bright. And that's what's causing a little bit of that disconnect in my brain of that looks way too bright, you know what I mean? So by filling it back in with some darker color, and again creating a nicer contrast, it makes the edges of the armor pop more. And of course, having that super tight tip of a good Kolinsky sable brush is really helping with this. I couldn't imagine trying to do this with a brush that's more worn down with an inferior tip. But yeah, honestly, there's not a whole lot more I want to do to this, mainly out of decision paralysis, because I feel like if I keep nitpicking at it, I'm eventually going to make it look worse than it already is. So I'm going to probably hit a few more areas and then kind of leave it at that. Come back to it again possibly later on today, because right now it's all starting to look like I should completely redo the entire thing, and I don't think that that's the case. I think it's worth salvaging. And this is where kind of my inexperience with non-metallic metal comes in, because I'm not sure exactly what to fix, just that things need fixing. Like on the back foot, given that it's in a deeper shadow, I feel like I should probably give it a little bit less actual highlighting. I'm not sure exactly where I should take it away. I think probably in here, where it's almost completely covered, I've gone too bright, and so I probably need to knock down the non-metallic metal a bit. So I think what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to go deeper into a shadow and not show off as much of a highlight, because I probably just went too bright is the problem. And that way it'll better reflect that that part of his leg is in shadow versus not being in shadow. And it's also because I think I was getting tired by this point at the end of the night and my patience was starting to wane. It's a lot sloppier. Like the actual technique I used to put the non-metallic metal on. Hey, Darkvolt. You were just watching the last VOD. Well, I appreciate it. I have no idea how good or bad it sounded. Half of everything didn't work since I hadn't touched it in months, and so half the links were broken. So, I tried my best. But, it kind of went how it went. Right now, I'm trying to fix some of the mess I made on the non-metallic metal gold spots that I was working on yesterday, because with the way the camera was facing, I couldn't really see what I was doing. And so in some spots, the non-metallic metal is just kind of really cacked and messed up. And so now, I'm trying to go back and see what I can do here to make it just look better, more presentable, that kind of thing. I even finally broke out the expensive brush because I believe the Citadel brush has kind of taken me as far as it can go in terms of fine detail. But yeah, I'm entering him as a competition piece this Friday, I hope. And if I can't finish him, I've got other competition pieces I can enter that are going to be okay. But I've really liked how he's turned out so far. So if I can get him done, that's kind of the goal. Because I think he's turning out really, really good. Yeah, I went more with the like old Sons of Horus look as opposed to the Black Legion look, because I feel like, you know, everyone does Black Abaddon, Black Armor Abaddon, which I think is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I just wanted mine to look a little unique. And I've always wanted an excuse to paint Sons of Horus, and I feel like this was a good opportunity to do so. So hopefully it reads as that like seafoam green that the Sons of Horus wore, and he's gonna look okay when he's done. One of the individuals, one of my viewers, is a client of mine in terms of mini painting. He's had me do a lot of his Dark Angel stuff, and I guess he really likes how this is turning out, because he said the urge to buy Horus Ascended for me as payment for another commission I'm doing just keeps rising. And that's actually what I'd like for him to do, so I think we worked that out yesterday. He's going to go ahead and get Horus Ascended from Games Workshop, from Forge World, and use that as payment for a couple of minis I'm giving him and another paint job I'm doing. You might want to do the red glow in his hood. You can dab the red pretty much now before you start painting the head. That's kind of the plan. I think I might have mentioned the fear of doing so last night, but what you're suggesting is exactly how I was going to approach it, because I'm not going to try and paint his head and then paint behind his head, you know? What I might do is like paint behind him with white and then hit it with red. That way it really stands out as a really like brilliant red. What I should have done, and I've seen a lot of good painters do this, is before they attach the head, they actually spray back there. But the way his head is attached is really funky. It's not actually a head, it's a face that gets attached to a neck stump inside the cowling. And it's just like, yeesh. Well, that scuppers my plans, I guess. So hopefully, I can manage it, because I really want to do the red behind him. I think it's a neat look. Yeah, that's in this case, it's a ridiculous set of sub-assembly, because like I said, his head isn't actually a full head. It's just kind of a faceplate. And so trying to do that specific thing it doesn't look like it would work. One moment, let me get something. I want to show you. So yeah, this is how his head is fitted. Those are his other faceplates that I could have used, the one with the half mask, and the one with him scowling instead of just looking at it. But this is how they're attached. They're just attached to like a neck stump, which is funky and scary, and I don't want to mess with that. Thank you. I do enjoy streaming. I've just been so busy with my other job that I haven't really had time. But yeah, I think I might try that next once I'm done with the non-metallic metal gold. That'll probably be my next thing, because after that I'm gonna have to tackle like the pipes, which should be relatively easy, and then his claw. But I think I want to get that back part behind his head done, just because it's such like, you know, a fairly big challenge for me to have to deal with. So hopefully that will be it, and then I'll be able to do that. But yeah, I missed streaming, and I'm happy that I have some time to do so. I think what I might do is, one moment. I think what I might do is start taking Tuesdays in particular, Tuesday evenings, because my wife still has D&D on Tuesdays, and that kind of leaves me with some free time in the evening, at least where I am. And maybe that will be a good time for me to stream. But that would be pretty late your time, I believe. So I'll figure something out. Because I'm going to start working 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Which means that my availability in the mornings is going to get really, really limited. Okay, what else can I do here? Maybe do a through line through here. Try not to mess this up. I'm still trying to get used to using this Winsor & Newton again because the brush is just so much thinner and finer controlled than what I was using. Though I think it's turning out okay. I was able to fix this up a little bit. I think I managed to fix up his other leg a little bit. That is true. I can start doing the VODs again. That's kind of an ideal situation, is I start having time to stream at least to the point where I can start putting VODs up. And I know for a fact I've got a big old project to work on because of that Scaventide box. So I will definitely be doing some streaming with that. Probably going all the way from assembling up to painting. But yeah, that was a fun little gift from me to me for getting the new job. So I'm now working in tech support for the city that I live in. I apparently tested or was their best candidate for that job, which blew my mind. But it meant that everything I've done since then has been like, let's get you processed so you can start working at the beginning of September. Okay, for having a plan and congrats on a new job. Thank you. Yeah, it's a contracted position, so I'm guaranteed money instead of the wage thing that I'm doing now. And it's with the city, so that means I get back on a sweet, sweet healthcare plan. And my wife had to get a job due to our economic situation. And she's gotten to a point where she likes it well enough. Because it was kind of awful for a while. And she's decided to stick with it for at least until the end of the year. And that way, we're kind of dual income, which means we're going to have more money coming in than we've ever had. So, we're actually going to be able to kind of catch up with the bills and start doing some things to the house that have been needed repair or maintenance for years before she may decide to step away from that job. So, I'm pretty darn happy. My hope, though, is that given her and the other new hires' value to the company, they might be able to finagle a higher wage increase. Because right now, they're not making much. And given their level of education and the job they're doing, they should be making more. So I'm hoping that she'll be able to convince their boss that, yes, they do deserve more. Also, I need to get me some more number 2 Kolinsky Sable brushes because the level of control I have with this and the ability to just kind of highlight exactly where I need to highlight is stupid. And it makes me wonder how much better I could have done on some of my other projects had I started using this earlier. Because I'm getting some really nice effect right now. Like, that looked good. I'm happy with that. A little bit of the gold, a little bit of the ice white, a little bit of the ice white. Now, honestly, the one thing that's been kind of frustrating and has been very hard to learn for me is when it comes to doing layered highlights like this, is just making sure to pull back gradually with every new layer and have less and less coverage. Which I had training weights on, I did, and that's kind of the fun thing about painting with a shitty brush is you have to compensate for it and learn some new technique. And then when you're not using it anymore, you've already compensated for the issues of a worse tool. And it's made me have this philosophy that's actually really bad of purposely using a bad tool so you have to rely on technique. And that way when you get a good tool, you know, your good technique is already built in. And I had to do that in college because when I was learning how to cook, I had really cheap, awful kitchen knives. And so I didn't realize that they could be sharper and cut smoother. So I was really learning how to control my cutting. And then I moved in with a friend who had done door-to-door sales work with a knife company, one of those pyramid scheme things. And when he let me use one of his knives, it was like I was cutting through butter because my technique was so good. My technique and my control were so good. And it's like, oh, it's made me so much better. I should do this with everything I do. And my understanding is that's bad. You really shouldn't do that. You shouldn't purposely train with terrible equipment. But it made me better at thing. So it became that was the lesson I learned. Train with bad equipment so you can be better at thing. So yeah, don't do that. Learn how to do thing right with good equipment, so that way you have less a chance of slicing your hand off or something. Though honestly, if I managed to slice my hand off with a paintbrush, I would be thoroughly impressed. But yeah, the control that I'm getting with this is very nice. Very good. A+. Weirder things must have happened. That is true. I mean, I got this scar from messing around with a blender, so I have done incredibly stupid things. But yeah, I really do need to... I've heard that Rosemary & Co. make really good brushes, and one of my friends who also does mini painting, she recently bought them because they're relatively inexpensive, and she said she likes them. So, given that they're like a third of, or a fifth of the price of the Winsor & Newton ones I have, I'm very strongly considering ordering me some, just to kind of test them out. Because if they're a tenth as good as these Winsor & Newtons, then they'll definitely be worth it. Okay. Go straight to the ice white highlight. Hopefully it'll look okay over here. Yeah, I'm getting very little. Exactly what I want. I just want it to like kiss the model and just give it a slight highlight. There we go. I don't know, what kind of brushes do you use? Because you get really good results with your brushes. At least from the models you've been showing off and painting. All I know is that the Citadel brushes have always been extremely hit and miss with me because they always look like they were... Yours are crap. That's fair. I tried using Army Painter for a while back when I was first learning, and I honestly think they made me worse. Like, they made my technique worse, they made me worse. And so I kind of gave up on using Army Painter. And at one point I tried to buy one of their Kolinsky Sable brushes, and it would never keep a point. It was the absolute worst brush I've ever used, and given that I spent like 20 bucks on it, I was pretty livid. Apparently I spent too much, but that's how much it was on Amazon when I bought it. And I even gave it to a friend who had used Kolinsky Sable, and he just kind of made this sad, oh no sound when he tried to like do a brush stroke with it, so I just threw it away. But I think I just got a really bad Kolinsky Sable brush from Army Painter, and their Kolinsky Sables are actually okay. Use cheap synthetics from a druggery store. They have plenty there, and they restock them reliably. Yeah, I live right next to a Michaels, which is a craft and hobby store, and they have synthetic brushes, and generally they have synthetic 1s and 2s and 0s, but like they're almost always sold out, because I guess when people start painting minis and whatnot, that's where they go. At least as far as I can tell, it might not be. But I had to kind of give up going there because I could never find what I was looking for without the tips being horrifically destroyed by people grabbing them and messing with them. Okay. I will say the single worst part about putting a mini on a popsicle stick instead of having it on a solid base is just how wibbly it is when I put a paintbrush on it. because right now he's been screwed into and then glued into this paperclip bit, but you can see he's really wobbly, and so I'm having issues with control here, and that's making life very difficult when trying to precision paint. So I think I need to find a new approach to mounting minis before I put them on their stands. Okay, that claw is going to look so darn good when it's done. Okay, going into kind of the dull yellow-brown. Let's see, where is everything? Right there. That should be okay. Go, that's what I want. Okay, that's giving me a nice highlight, but it's not giving me what I want. Oh, wrong side. I want this side. There we go. Needed to put it on a little thicker. So how have you been? I know I'm looking on how to properly clean my brushes. I've not found it yet. I know Brent from Goobertown Cleans, so brushes can be recovered. Yeah, so what I do with that, and I've started following kind of his method, is I actually have a little, like, drugstore bottle or jar of IPA, and like, this is the brush I was using yesterday, and you can see it's not in great shape. I just kind of put it in here, and I'm a little bit more forceful than I need to be, but I just kind of really agitate it, and you can actually see paint particles falling off it, and then I rub it against a paper towel, and I repeat that a few times, and then rinse it off with some water to get the IPA out of it. And then I use Master's brush soap, which is this stuff. And I just kind of get it really wound up in there. And then wring it out on my hand. And you can see there's still some paint particles coming out. But after a while, it tends to do a pretty good job. Now, this one's not really super recoverable because of how beat up it is, but I've gotten a lot more life out of it, specifically by doing that. Having a small sealed jar of IPA, using that, then rinsing it off, and then using some brush soap conditioner. And that's done a pretty good job of extending the lifespan of what should have been a dead dog many months ago. Yeah, I got my the hobby store that I was talking about. They sell it in those containers, and honestly, I feel like it's gonna last me for forever because I paint a lot, and I haven't managed to use much of it, even though I use it every day or every time I paint. It's how I clean my brushes, regardless of how much or how little I paint. I have like no stability here. This kind of feels bad. What I think needs to happen is I need to add some airbrush flow improver into the paint mixture, and that'll help it flow off the brush a little better. Is this even visible? Yeah, there it is. But yeah, for a while I used brush soap by itself, and that works fine. But Brent's suggestion of using IPA to really get a deep clean and then rinse it out has been a game changer, because the brush soap only does so much. The IPA very forcibly dissolves and removes acrylic paint from deeper in the brush, and it actually turned my my dry brush from a mess into almost brand new, which is amazing because my dry brush is beat to shit. So I suggest you just get like a small resealable jar and get some like 91% IPA or even 70% IPA and just have that. Oh, one moment. No, I'm not answering that. A moment, please. Okay. That was a phone call. Still haven't found IPA. Oh, well, that's no good. Did you say that potentially a chemist or an apothecary might have it? I mean, I understand why it's not sold regularly, but like, that's a drugstore thing over here. Hey, Mommy Dova, how's it going? I thought you were working today. Today is, my second day off for the week, so I decided to use it as productively as possible. I've got some household chores running in the background, and, like laundry and the like, and I'm doing my best to get as much of this guy painted as possible so that he'll potentially be ready by Friday. They do, but it's expensive. That's absolutely fair. I don't know how or why it's so cheap in the United States, but like a bottle of IPA is about $3 US, which I think equates to around €2.50, if not a little less. And they're fairly large bottles. Like I got this much. Oh, you're just productively watching sport. Fair enough. I got that much, and it was about $3 or $4. So we can get a lot of IPA for relatively cheap in the United States. So I'm sorry that it's expensive where you are and hard to find. Got some good work done on Bellacore yesterday, and I'm questioning if you like the bone, horn, spine, scales. Well, if you give me a second, I'll take a quick look at it, because right now I'm kind of fighting the trim on his gauntlet. And once I finally get to a point where I'm happy with it, I'll stop and look at the pictures that you sent on chat, or on stream, on Discord. There's what I'm looking for. I did think it was funny that my stream yesterday got copyright struck because it had some licensed music on it, but I got it all from a royalty-free collection. So, you know, the algorithm and all that. Okay. This is where life is getting difficult. I hope I'm still on camera. Okay, I'm still on camera. Honestly, what I do for the horns and anything that looks particularly bony, especially on bigger minis, is I kind of paint them a really dark color, like a brown, a dark brown mixed with black, and then I dry brush them with a bone color. And even though it leaves kind of a dusty after appearance, I think in general it looks pretty good for, you know, a bone situation on a monstrous figure. Now, more recently, I've stopped doing that because it is kind of a generalist a generalist technique, and it doesn't always look great. But sometimes it's all you really need. Dusty dry brush works well for bone. Yeah, exactly. Since bone is already kind of inherently textured and porous, I figure that it's fine, you know? This song has some deep foreboding in it. This is just part of another montage of songs that I've gone to that claim to be DMCA free, or whatever. So hopefully I won't get tagged again. Okay. I will say that doing this work on this small an area is difficile. Hopefully it'll look okay when I'm done with it. Oh yeah, I probably had hit the bone, the skulls on the front. He's still in the ugly basing phase at the moment. These next couple of days will be detail central with my dry brushes and detail brushes. Fair enough. That is exactly what you should aim for. Ugly now so it can be pretty later. Because yeah, I only took a quick look at them since I've been, you know, slowly waking up all morning and late last night, but it looked like you were getting some pretty good progress done on Bellacore. One of the other people that hop into the stream, Bellacore is the Big Daddy Demon Lad. If I remember right, he's Chaos Undivided. And he came out in 9th edition with the Chaos Demon release. He was like the big bad that came along with him. And he's a fantastic looking model. Arya Silverfire, who pops in here every now and then, she did a version of Bellacore to make it look like the Diablo, and calls it Diablocore, which I think is super neat. I think she posted it a while ago, but that was back when she like first started hopping onto the stream. Okay, and there's where the dusting Starts actually looking good. Okay. Get a little more yellow on the skull. Yeah, it's probably just because I'm listening to it in one ear. I think he dropped an AOS first, but I don't know. I mean, potato, potato. I think he was a dual release, you know what I mean, since he was a Chaos Demon. Kind of like how the Chaos Demon Prince is both for 40k and Age of Sigmar. And they did the thing where one of them is very clearly meant to be more 40k coded, and the other one's meant to be more Age of Sigmar coded with his body types. Like one hand even has like a cannon coming out of it in 40k for the 40k version, and it's just a hand for the Age of Sigmar version, something like that. I love my demons. Really want to try to have try them out to have 2 armies in 1. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do when I started collecting. When I thought about collecting Maggotkin of Nurgle, because most of those units are usable in like as a Death Guard detachment. But then I ran out of money, so I stopped trying to do that. But it's okay. I have enough armies as is. The lovely content creator that we hopped onto yesterday, or raided into, did make a good point. No one ever just has one army, right? Everyone always ends up kind of branching into multiples just because there's so many flavors of awesome in wargaming and in 40k. And I get that entirely, because I thought I was just going to stick with Tau, but then because of Astartes, I fell in love with Space Marines, specifically the Imperial Fist Space Marines, and that's due to text-to-speech. And then, you know, Sisters of Battle look cool, and then Orcs look cool, and then Death Guard look cool. Funny moment regarding that, at the Warhammer store when I was looking for a Demon Prince because I eventually want to build a Marboss, I couldn't find one in the Chaos Marine section. Another day I found it on the AOS shelf. Yeah, that seems to be where they keep them. I originally picked up Bellacor's Slave to Darkness piece, but ultimately haven't bought much Slave to Darkness, so I could go Demons. Yes, you could. There's no reason to stick to a plan if you decide you no longer like the plan. But yeah, they seem to keep a lot of the demon characters over in Age of Sigmar. I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that not a lot of people play Chaos Demons in 40k. I don't think I've met a Chaos Demon player. Everyone I know either uses them as a detachment for their Space Marines or plays Age of Sigmar, where they're a little bit more focused on. Which I get. Alright, demons are in AOS, not 40k. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, I don't really like how they use Chaos Demons in 40k. I wish there was a little more flexibility to the rules, or like... I don't remember if they've come out with their codex yet. For some reason, I doubt it, but... I don't want to play all the armies, or all the units in the army. I want to play as one of the 4 Gods of Chaos, like I'm doing with the Chaos Space Marines. So maybe what they'll do is eventually they'll kind of halfway port over the Age of Sigmar ones and make it so that the detachments are more focused on the individual gods. I apologize if nothing's on screen right now. Oh, nope, it still is. As a Grey Knight player, I'll get demons too so I can force people to play them. Fair enough. Like, man, these demons suck. If only someone had a Grey Knight's army to deal with them. Oh wait, that is me as well. I think, by and large, this is going to be okay. The demons in Age of Sigmar feel like greater demons. They're a quarter of your army for gods of absolute murder. Yeah, and that's kind of the best part about it. In 40k, they kind of feel like an afterthought. Which is silly to me because... And it might just be because I've been reading a ton of heresy, but they also seem to be the main indestructible villain of most of the Horus Heresy stories. There we go. But then again, in Heresy, they're all still kind of like how no one really knows how to deal with the demons yet. I haven't read a whole lot of actual 40k stories. I've only read mainly Horus Heresy. And I read Eisenhorn up to, I think, the third one? And I read Belisarius' Call, The Great Work. And that's kind of it. I did read 2 of that Warhammer Adventures stuff that was meant for, like, young adults. And it really blows my mind how hard they went on those stories. They glassed an entire planet that all the main characters had been on at the beginning of the first book. But because it was all heavily implied rather than explicitly stated, they were able to get away with it. Though they also had a kid get disintegrated by a Necron warrior, which was pretty amazing. They definitely were able to play more with the mature themes because they didn't do a lot of explicit gore. It was quite impressive. 40k feels like we got chaos already with the Marines, but we got actual demons in fantasy. Let's use the models also in 40k as a knife fluff thing, and it stopped there. Yeah, that's true. I kind of get it, because the demons and whatnot were later additions, weren't they? Not later, but definitely post-Chaos Space Marines being a thing. I don't remember if they were auxiliaries or what, because that goes prior to my knowledge of 40k. Okay, that helps a little bit. Let's get some more of just the yellow in there. Got that flow improver. Good. If you want to borrow my Audible to try Lion, Son of the Forest, you can. It's an amazing book and makes the lion likable. That's what I kept hearing, because there was a lot of talk of that book when it came out on the social media. And the lion is portrayed as very regretful of his actions during the heresy, and actually wanting to be better. So I don't really have a whole lot of interest in reading it, but it was neat. It's kind of neat seeing how these well-established characters from the heresy are reacting now that they're returning. And I understand that Games Workshop is just kind of taking advantage of the cash cow here, but I really think their business strategy is pretty darn good, because they've got some, what is it, 8 Primarchs that they can slowly bring back, and so they've basically set themselves up for decades of steady drip releases, and good on them for figuring that out, I suppose. Okay. Who knows, maybe they'll start releasing them in much more accelerated fashion as the years goes on, but right now they're doing a Primarch and like a Trader Primarch, an edition, so they've got quite a bit to go through. Okay, the gold on this guy is looking pretty good, I think. I feel like I need to go brighter, though. That's kind of the issue. Like right here, he's got some areas that look like they should be brighter, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more ice yellow, and we'll see what that does to the models. Okay, I see what they want me to do here. I remember one of the times when I was first painting my 3D printed Fulgrim, I put him up to the light on the camera, and because of how he kind of gradually went from really dark browns to a bright white, it actually washed out the camera lens. You think Drago could be a great way to introduce Lorgar and Corvus? I think Lorgar he's active again. Like, they've had mentions of him in the lore actively campaigning and proselytizing. So the Demon Primarchs are definitely a lot more active. The whole meme about him hiding in a tower while Corvus Corax is out there just waiting for him to leave is an old meme, and I'm pretty sure that that's been kind of overwritten in modern canon, because it was a story from like 10 years ago. Okay, next I guess is the pauldrons, which honestly I'm a little scared to do. But let's get to it. Pauldrons ahoy. Okay. Go ahead and get some more brighter layer on there. And actually, wait a minute. Did I? Yeah, that'll be fine. A little bit on there. A little bit of brown. I'm just going to slowly build my way up past this dark brown into a lighter color that I can use. Okay. I think by now it's Perturabo waiting in a tower, scheming his perfect plan. I mean, they kind of hint that he's going to be back with how they're using Vashtor. Because they keep implying that Vashtor is allied with some kind of demon Primarch. I think he's allied with the Iron Warriors. I don't remember if that was explicitly stated or not. But it makes sense because he's kind of a chaos god of like heavy machinery and scheming and innovation. So he kind of fits out perfectly with Perturabo. And I don't remember if Perturabo has ascended to Demon Primarchhood, but I know that in the Heresy he talked about how he would never do such a thing. Which means his fall would be that much more meaningful, I guess. But yeah, there's always so much they can do with the lore. Okay. The dark are into the lighter brown. And yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself for not using this brush earlier. Because it's been getting me some absolutely wonderful brush control. Good material for years to come. Exactly. There's so... And that's something I don't think... I mean, I guess fans do get it, but they're impatient and whiny. Is that when Games Workshop introduces a plot hook, that doesn't mean they're going to resolve the plot hook within the same edition. The whole point is that they're trying to give you something to play with, right? They're not really worried about satisfying narrative conclusions right now. They want you to have a plot hook so that you can start developing your own stories, and then later years down the line, you can see what became of those elements after you yourself have moved on. Like they did with Pariah Nexus. Because Pariah Nexus, you know, it was the start of 9th edition, and then they kind of ignored it for a while. That's because they introduced all these villains, they introduced all these new units, they introduced this, that, and the other, and the whole point of it was so that you could have like 5 years worth or 4 years worth of campaigns to play through, and scenarios to set up, knowing that the Necron's main goal was this, and this is what was happening. The Warp, I'm just Drago's #1 fan. I think of so many ways to bring him into lore, even though GW wants to forget about him. Like the Warp plus any Demon Primarch or Prince equals a perfect Drago entrance. Well, I mean, I think they don't want fans to immediately jump to Drago coming in with a steel chair, because doing so in some ways kind of cheapens him too, because now he's just become a plot contrivance. At least that's my best guess. They'll reintroduce Drago when they want to, and it's probably going to be in this edition with a new character model or something. I don't know. Okay. See if I can not mess up this shoulder pad. As always, I'm just slowly making my way up through the gradient that I've set up for myself. And each layer covers less area than the previous layer, so as to really drive home the idea that light is being focused on that one area. If you really want to see a Drago model with a folding chair, I guarantee you someone's made it. I know there's a Primaris Marine model with a folding chair, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be that difficult to kit bash the arms onto a Kaldor Drago. My the Emperor, it's Master Drago with a steel chair, is like the Stone Cold Steve Austin music plays in the background. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if they did something like that, because I mean, Games Workshop, at this point, they have a much better internet presence. They know their community. They know what the memes are. I mean, in their Warhammer community article, they made a reference to the idea that the word bearers were Italian after Adeptus Ridiculous made a joke about Erebus being Italian. So they know exactly what they're doing. Which, if I remember right, actually kind of worked out because Aaron Dembski-Bowden, as he was writing the first Heretic, in his mind, the word bearers were Mediterranean. Drago and Terminator armor sitting on a Dread Knight with a knight-sized power folding chair. Yeah, and it's glowing like bright blue and white because it's got the energy coursing through it. That would legitimately be terrifying. Is he still the Grandmaster of the Grey Knights? Because what happened with... I don't remember what happened with Was it Nockmund? I honestly don't remember the last big story event, the one that brought Angron back. All I know is that the Grey Knights were involved and they got bodied really bad by Angron. If Drago's new model doesn't have tiny people in his beard, I'll riot. Well, unfortunately, the text-to-speech jokes are at this point almost a decade old. And honestly, I think they're trying to distance themselves as much as possible from that. Especially after the fallout of Warhammer Plus basically killing a lot of community fan animations and the like. Thankfully, it looks like they're starting to pick back up and people are starting to do things again. Though honestly, I think killing text-to-speech was for the better, because Hunter the Parenting has been an absolute masterclass in storytelling. It is just so good. If you have not watched Hunter the Parenting, then you should. Drago's still the current acting Grandmaster. Yeah, but he's like banished in the warp, ain't he? Well, I guess he can be banished in the warp and still be acting Grandmaster. I don't know. I don't know the story of the Grey Knights. You do, so I'll defer to you on that. Grey Knights know that Drago's still alive because he keeps popping up every once in a while. Yeah, that makes sense. Every time I hear more about the actual lore of 40k, it's like, wow, text-to-speech got a lot more right than they had any right to do so. And it's like, you think some of it's hyperbole, and then you realize, no, they were really pretty darn bang-on accurate with some of their jokes. At least with the information they had been given at the time. Because obviously, as the lore has changed, maybe he'll find some Primarch there stuck in the warp. Well, Lehman Russ is there still looking for the Tree of Life. Jagatai Khan is there still beating the shit out of the Drukhari. There's plenty of opportunities for Drago to pull another Primarch back out with him. As Mommy Delva mentioned earlier. So who knows? Yeah, my biggest issue right now is I have never been good at highlighting these pauldrons, so I'm going to try my best. Just because the lighting on these crooked-ass things is so weird. Drago can manifest into real space as demons appear, but he gets pulled back in the warp when they die, get pulled away. I really want to see a Russ and Lion confrontation. Man throws hands with Primarchs and wins. He's perfect. And way too OP to be in the story. Yeah, kind of. Well, he's also using that cursed demon blade, right? That drives everyone else mad, but he's the only one pure enough to not be driven mad by it. I wonder how they're going to do the Lion, because it seems like as Primarchs come back, they go through some great character change just because of the experiences since the Heresy. So I wonder if we're going to get, like, sad Kratos Lion, or if he's going to come back even jollier and more insane than ever. And I still think Drago bodying Mortarion was stupid. I know it's a cool fan moment, but I think it's stupid. Demon Primarchs are supposed to be much more powerful. even with the whole true name bullshit. But that's just me. I could think it's stupid all I want, but it's canon. That's what I remembered hearing, and it's part of the reason why Drago is so, like, insane in text-to-speech, is because the sword that he's using is like, horrifically corrupted, and it drives a normal person mad, but because of Drago's immense purity of heart and spirit, he's the only one that can wield it without basically dying from its touch. But I could be wrong. That was something I read a long time ago. Okay. That goes like that. Was that when Mortarion tried to intercept Gilliman on the way to Terra? I honestly have no clue. I've only heard of the story. He apparently knew Mortarion's true name and carved it on his heart, which severely weakened him and made him lose, or whatever. The last time I think Gilliman and Mortarion interacted was in Ultramar, the Protectorate or whatever, and he started trying to create like a plague that would kill Gilliman called the God Blight. And technically he won, but because of other events that happened, the Emperor was channeled through him, spoke to him directly, and turned Mortarion into a crying bitch who was then pulled back by Nurgle and was tortured or something. I don't remember the exact story, even though I read that trilogy. There's something about Jonathan Banks's narration that kind of just puts me to sleep. The Titan Sword is a force weapon handcrafted by the Emperor. Ah, okay. Maybe it was Castellan Crow that I was thinking of. I don't know. There's so many characters in the 40k to try and keep up with, and I remember none of them. You were thinking of Magnus? Okay, yeah, that's fair. Magnus was introduced at the end of 7th edition, right? I always get those confused. Because I know Mortarion and the Death Guard were introduced at the beginning of 8th edition. I have no clue when the Gilliman model came out. I thought he was also an 8th edition dude. And Magnus was an older model from 7th. But I could be wrong. He's still a really cool model. And I want to buy me a Magnus at some point. Pro has the Black Blade. Okay. So yeah, I had them backwards. I must go. My planet needs me. His appearances in text-to-speech were absolutely ridiculous. Gilliman must have been linked to the Primaris. Yeah, Gilliman was. Like, I believe Belisarius Cawl brought the Primaris back out in coordination with Gilliman coming back. And actually, I will be right back. I have to both use the bathroom and finish some chores real quick. Champion of the Purifiers. It makes sense that he's the only one pure enough to will. Yeah, true. But yeah, I will be right back. I need to switch out some laundry and I need to use the bathroom. So I'm going to go ahead and hop away for a second. I'm not going to do the goofy "we'll be right back" thing because I don't have that set up. But a moment. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I used to have a thing, and I think you guys might remember it, where it would do like a whole sequence of ridiculousness. I might actually be able to make that work. Give me a second. I'm curious if I can. Where would that be? OBS. No, no, it's not none of that. Stop. Was it through this? Thank you. Yeah, I just had to switch out some laundry. I'm down in the basement, so it took me only a minute. But let's see if I can get this other thing to work, because I think it was done through StreamerBot, which I'm still not super used to using. But, come on, StreamerBot. Oops. I have a copy running in this folder already. Oh, it's trying to load very slowly. There it goes. There's an update available. Yeah, sure, download the update. But yeah, I think I like how this Abaddon is coming along. I might actually hit him again with like a Seraphim Sepia on the gold to kind of dull it down a bit, because it's coming through very bright. But otherwise, I think he's turning out really good. Okay, install. At 0.2.4. Doing that. Now it's restarting. But yeah, I finished reading The End of the Death Part 2 last night. Or not last night. That was the last Warhammer book I read, and I am so anxious for the third one. Because even though a lot of people have criticized Dan Abnett for going way too meandering and verbose with his writings, I honestly think that it works really well, and it's really good. Okay, let's see if this works. Beautiful. I love it so much. I think I need to find a way to make it mute the music, though, so that it doesn't try and read over the streaming music. But that's very funny. A+ work. What I think I need to do is Photoshop, or not Photoshop, but just badly MS Paint my avatar's clothing over that frog. I have no idea where I got that picture from, but it makes me laugh, and so therefore it's worth using, especially since I'm already fairly frog-themed. And eventually I'll have time to get back into learning Blender, and I'll be able to render myself some more assets, and then I'll learn Unity, and then I can make myself an actual little VPO hangout. Be a little frogman in a little pond. And I'll make the raids like crashing Space Marine pods. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I did have pretty ambitious plans for this that never kind of came to fruition, because I got busy. Yeah, kind of creating little highlights. Any thoughts on printing my little frogman? I'm scared to, because I did a really bad job making him. As soon as I get... If I start finding ways to be better at Blender, then yeah. Like, this is not the final model of him by any means. It's just the last one I made and then took pictures of so I could use the talking animation. He is very poorly constructed in Blender. I tried to rig him with, like, you know, a skeleton, and it went very badly. So, I kind of gave up because I got really frustrated. But yeah, I would love to print the little froggy dude and just kind of have him sitting at my desk like a caddy at some point. So, it'll probably happen eventually. I just need to get better at actually blending. Because I know you can save them as an STL. I actually mussed around with an STL file in Blender, because one of my friends bought some Imperial Knights, and one of the ones he got is the one with the pilot, Canis Rex, and he wanted to be the pilot. And so I told him that I could 3D print him a head with like a big beard like the one he has, and we could just like add some goggles on him. So I went into Blender and just put some cylinders over the eyes so they look like flight goggles. And I don't know where it is right now, but I still have the head around here. So there it is. Blender definitely takes some work to get used to. I was playing around with it for a while when it came to VR. Yeah, it is definitely difficult. But yeah, this was actually a Space Wolf head. I don't know if that's going to be visible. And all I did was add some cylinders over the eyes. And my buddy is both bald and has a very big bushy beard, so this works perfectly. And so what I'm going to do probably is take that. He gave me this. I'm going to take the helmet off of this one. I wonder if I can. Oh, it's liquid cemented in there, good. But I'll put the other one on, and that way I can have a little pilot version of him. But yeah, Blender's learning curve is pretty high. But I kind of feel like as soon as I get it, I'm going to get it, you know? It's just one of those things you need to keep working at. Hey, Grizzhood, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you for joining my stream. I am right now working on Abaddon for a competition piece. And it's been a while since I've streamed because my job has made it difficult for me to find hours to stream. So I finally decided, screw it, I'm gonna stream. And I'm gonna try and start streaming on Tuesdays while my wife is doing her D&D game with her friends. And that way I'll be a little more active in that part of the community. But right now, I'm just working on getting this guy ready, because there's a competition, a painting competition on, what is it, on Friday through Sunday. And even though I have some pieces I've thought about entering, he's the first piece that I'm painting with an intent to enter. So if I finish him, then I'm going to enter him. If not, I've got some backup pieces to try and enter with. Best of focus and patience for learning Blender more. Yeah, I know, right? I was really super into it once I found out that Doig was doing the Unity tutorials. I was like, man, I really want to have a thing like what Doig and Swift has, but I don't have any assets to do it with. And so I started really looking up how to do stuff on Blender. And I found some quick and easy tutorials on how to make characters, which I then managed to ruin. But that's okay. Got to get you some time to come to Blade on Thursdays. Yeah, that is the biggest thing, is I've been trying to go there, but my job currently has me working evenings, like closing out, so it's like 8 o'clock when I get off work. And at that point, I just want to go home. I'm an old man who wants to go home. And so I'm trying to break that a little bit. And my hope is eventually to start, like this week, I'm working 4 to 8 tomorrow, which is like the weirdest timetable. But yeah, Blender is really good. It's incredibly versatile, which I think is super cool. It's just that because it's so versatile, it takes a bit to learn. And that's where I'm stuck at, is the takes a bit to learn part of that situation. So eventually, I'll get over it, and I will learn it. But right now, I'll just stare at it and wish I was better at it. It's bedtime, Grandpa. It really is bedtime. I was doing texture baking in Blender yesterday. I don't even know what that means, but that sounds really cool. I know that you've got that awesome VPO setup that you're starting, or your onomatopoeia, that you're using a Microsoft Kinect camera for. Because I remember seeing that. You don't have to learn it all at once? Yeah, I know. It just becomes like, what part do I learn first? And which tutorial do I follow? Because, like, I don't want to use the donut tutorial because I heard that guy's a crypto bro. And also kind of a jerk. And it's like, I don't want to support you. So I found some other tutorials, but nothing that kind of scratches that specific itch. The staring at it is a very important step. I did that with Maya before I had the courage to mess with it. That's also fair. Can you bake me some texture cookies? Yeah, right. Okay, I think for now, until I can really take a look at it, the shoulder pad, the left pauldron is done. Maybe a little bit more here. A little bit more flavor, but I think that's about as far as I want to go there. I'll look at it again a little later. You're going to be doing your official 1.0 debut for your VPO on August 31st. You're going to be playing Wind Waker HD. That's very cool. Wind Waker is such a goated game. I've never been a huge fan of Zelda games because I was really bad at them when I was a kid. and they stressed me out, so I didn't play them much. And I tried to play Ocarina of Time because it just looks so good. And I had a friend who had it on his Nintendo 64, and he let me play it, but he didn't tell me the controls at all, and just kept saying, just keep playing, you'll get it. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I eventually got frustrated and gave up, and that was my last experience with Ocarina of Time until I watched the Game Grumps play it almost 30 years later. And that makes me sad, because the Zelda games are obviously so very good, but because of some bad experiences with them early, I just never really gave them a chance. And I tried playing Breath of the Wild, but for some reason it just felt like I was fighting the controls the entire 2 hours I was playing, and I just gave up on that. Ocarina of Time gave me the idea to get into game dev. It's one of your favorite games. I mean, I get that entirely. It's a masterful game, especially for the time it came out. But I was mad because I didn't know what I was doing and my friend wasn't helping me, so I got bored and stopped. So yeah, congrats with almost being to your VPO debut, and I hope that Wind Waker HD treats you well. Am I going to be grabbing... there's some things in the controls that are not the most intuitive. I mean, I figure for the time, they were the best that the game devs could do, you know? Because I trust that Nintendo did everything in their power to make the game user-friendly. And to answer your question, Mommy Dova, I already reserved it. I know pre-order game bad, but from what I saw of it, I was like, I don't care. I want to give these guys support so that a potentially better game could come out if it turns out to not be good. But it already looks so good, I feel vindicated in my decision-making. I am so very excited for Space Marine 2. I am obscenely excited for Space Marine 2. I'm also really impressed that even though someone downloaded and is now playing like a leaked version of the game. One moment, I have to sneeze. A leaked version of the game. The internet community as a whole has been very, very quiet about it. And they haven't exactly been pushing it around because they want to respect the developers. Which I thought was really nice. And honestly, the fact that they delayed the game for almost a year... At the time, I was like, if you need that extra time, please use it, because I want this game to be good. And it seems like that's exactly what they did. I'm happy that Space Marine 2 not only exists, but feels as hefty as the first game. From what I've seen, it feels even bigger. They really went ham with it. Chapter Master Volrak, who you probably know is a fairly big Warhammer personality, is frothing at the mouth for that game because he's been on such a campaign to get it made. And he's friends with some video game journalists, and one of them gave him a key so that he could play alongside them with the multiplayer. And he refuses to play the single player because the only mission that they gave the journalists or the media was some midway through the game one, and he didn't want to spoil anything. And so he played like 40 hours of just doing one of the multiplayer player versus environment campaign mission, or player versus environment missions. And there's like 2 of them that's available for media release. And he said he's played like 40 hours of the damn thing, and that it's absolutely marvelous. So, I am beside myself excited for the game. Yeah, I think it was Game Riot. He was really good about giving them credit and being like, hey, I can't show footage, I was asked to take it down, which was fair, but if you want to see footage of it, go to Game Riot, because they're really, really good. They're fantastic. So yeah, I had a blast at Gen Con at the beginning of the month. Oh, I wanted to go to Gen Con, but I had no money. You want to mess with the character customization? Yeah, the army builder, or whatever you want to call it, looks so good. You got to hang out with Mapcrow. That's freaking awesome. Was he just as cool as he seems? I hope this time next year, I'll be in a position where I can actually start going to these awesome conventions and things. Because, like, Nova Open is happening later on this month, but I am so severely in debt right now. I don't have any extra money. Yeah, he's a gem. Very cool. I like finding out that people that I watch on the internet are cool. So many stories of celebrities being a-holes and jerks. It's nice to find ones that are just decent people. Speaking of decent people, I've gotten back into pro wrestling recently. He won an Emmy Award for his monstrous book for Best Monster Book. Well deserved. Well deserved, because he's been doing cool stuff for so long. I watched one of his videos a little while ago about designing good maps for D&D, and he does such a great job explaining himself and, like, articulating his ideas and concepts and the like. But yeah, I started getting back into wrestling now that Vince McMahon no longer owns the WWE, and one of the wrestlers on there is very unfortunately Logan Paul, and he still has his stupid talk show, and a lot of people go on it, which always makes me a little upset. But one of them was Rey Mysterio Jr.'s son, Dominic Mysterio, who's right now playing a bad guy in the stories that they have on WWE. And they were in Japan recently as part of a tour. And Logan Paul can't go to Japan for obvious reasons if you know anything about Logan Paul. And so I think Dominic Mysterio broached the subject that they were just recently in Japan, and Logan tried to kind of play coy about it because he doesn't want to talk about the fact that he's banned from Japan. So Dominic kept asking him, "Oh man, you haven't been to Japan? You couldn't go to Japan with the WWE? Well, that sucks. You should go to Japan with us next time. There's a lot of cool stuff there. Why can't you go to Japan?" And he really just kept poking at it. And Logan Paul, you could see him starting to seethe and get angrier and angrier. And at one point he was like, "Yeah, they have all sorts of cool places. You should definitely wear a hat." And of course, if you don't know, he's referencing that Logan Paul is banned from Japan specifically because he went into a very sacred forest and filmed, and then found the body of someone who committed suicide and decided to film that for content, which is, in absolutely terrible taste. And in the video, he's wearing, like, a frog hat. So the entire thing was just Dominic really poking at that raw nerve to make him mad. And kudos to Dominic, because fuck Logan Paul. He's kind of a terrible person. Him and his brother. I don't even know what got me on that subject. Oh yeah, it was celebrities who are bad people. But yeah, next year I hope to go to Gen Con. I want to go to Nova Open. I basically want to, especially at my new job, I want to accumulate sick days and time off so I can just take, like, multiple weekends off near the end of the summer and go to these awesome events. If I recall right, I actually had made plans with my coworker friends this year to go to Gen Con. But then my health took a turn for the worse because of stress-related nausea. And I ended up retiring from teaching and getting a much less well-paying job instead. So Gen Con and Nova Open and the like kind of stopped being an option. Though I will say, I did have a long-term plan. When I first got the job with Best Buy, I bought myself a Mini as a reward for that, and I made the decree that I'm going to start painting the Mini now. And I'm going to have the Mini painted up specifically for Adepticon so I can try and enter Golden Demon. And that Mini was Triumph of St. Catherine. And by and large, the Triumph of St. Catherine is done. And I was going to work on it like one model a month to really, really drive home how much I was going to really work on technique and making sure it was perfect and whatnot. But I'll be honest, I got overzealous and just started painting the shit out of it. And I want to eventually do more with the model. I kind of want to create a barrier that's being hit by plasma shots and bullets and whatnot, so it looks like their prayers and their belief in the Emperor and whatnot is saving them from a hail of bullets. But that requires a lot more time and effort than I want to put into it now. So that has not happened. Instead, it's all glued together and mostly complete and sitting in my Sisters of Battle army box. But it did turn out pretty good, so I can't be too mad about that. And I think I left enough like open space on it creatively that I can go back and clean it up if necessary. Okay. Here is where painting gets difficult, because I'm just trying to block in these spots that are showing increasing amounts of light. But because of the angles that I'm working at, is getting more and more difficult. There we go. There we go. That'll work. Good job on the Triumph. Thank you. Yeah. Actually, one moment. Let me go grab it, because the pictures I took of it, I need to get better studio lighting. The pictures I took of it really don't do it justice. I'll be right back. Let me get this. Okay, I got it. When I originally made it, I actually magnetized all of the models on it so I could remove them and use them as individual characters instead of having to buy the individual characters. But I gave up on that, so this is what I got. This is what it looks like. And I think I did a pretty good job. I was definitely really anxious working on some parts of it, but in doing so, I learned a lot about painting technique. So I think it turned out pretty okay. I did really enjoy painting the little cyborg babies, the little cherubs. But the way that they're all hooked in here is actually terrifying. This is such a flimsy piece, and I'm so scared of dropping it. But yeah, it was definitely a whole thing. And so I eventually want to put it on like a display plinth and add some more to it just to make it look even more intimidating and more impressive, and hopefully not take away from the actual model. But at the same time, I'm scared of ruining it, you know? I've hit a saturation point of it looks good. So it's like, what else do I want to do to it? Is the Skelly on the banner freehand? Wait, which banner? What am I looking at? This? No, that was there. That has a very, very slight indentation, so I just followed it to the best of my ability. The only close to freehand thing I did was the little box up there at the top, which was supposed to mimic illuminated manuscript, but it wasn't done super well. Everything else is kind of already built into the model. It's just ridiculous how much detail this darn thing had on it. Okay, I'm gonna put it back. A moment, be right back. Here that I've been manually, I'm gonna break it. I have just this absolute monster. I don't know if this is gonna show up well. I have so many Sisters of Battle. I have so many Sisters of Battle now. I have so many Sisters of Battle. And the most amazing thing to me is that, like, half of this army is 3D printed. Gotta go take the dog for the walk, but I've inspired you. Think I'm gonna paint some minis this afternoon. Very cool. Have fun with your walk. But yeah, I'll be right back. Hopefully it's a beautiful day where you live and you have a nice relaxing walk. Go ahead and put this back on. Got this carrying system. Dog times. My dog is too fat to walk. Well, he's not too fat. He's a bulldog, and he gets super excited to go on walks. But unfortunately, he's just so big and hefty that he can only walk for about 20 feet before he gets tired. So walks for him don't last very long. But he wants to keep going, so he actually ends up like walking himself out of breath, and then he has to be carried back. But he's a 60-pound bulldog, so carrying him back is not fun. So we don't take him on very many walks. But yeah, he loves walking around. It's just he can't do it for too long. Oh my goodness. Now, something I will say is that this has been like I can't wait to paint the Scaventide box set. Partially because I want to have an army of shitty little rats. Because just having a bunch of scrungly little goblin guys is really fun. But also because I have a scheme for the Stormcast Eternals that I'm excited to use that I didn't think about. I was trying to think of like a good custom chapter or custom order for the Sisters of Battle, but I couldn't think of one, so I just went with their default red and black. And it hit me what I should have done after I had finished everything, and I really don't want to go back and repaint them for the third time. I don't know if you guys have played Final Fantasy Tactics, but one of the lasting legacies of Final Fantasy Tactics for me was the overwhelming badassery that was Agrias. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing her name right, because, you know, dubbing didn't exist in 1997 or 98. But Agrias Oaks was one of my favorite female characters in any video game. And it's like entirely because she was one of the first characters that I'd seen in a video game that was female that wasn't defined by her femininity. Like, you know, especially back in the early or the 90s and the 80s and whatnot, women were primarily defined by the fact that they were women. They were either damsels in distress or femme fatales or magic users. They were very rarely ever portrayed as being like, I don't want to say competent warriors, because that's not true, but just, you know, they were the kind of competent warrior that if they got hit once, they were down, and then they were suddenly the damsel in distress. And even as a kid who was not the best with gender relations and whatnot, I still always thought that was stupid. And so I really liked Agrias because she was this holy knight that had incredibly powerful sword magic. And I just thought that was really cool. The artist for Final Fantasy Tactics also had the very distinct style. They worked on Tactics Ogre. And the art style of that game also just really kind of resonated with me. Let me see if I can... No, not a slideshow. Window capture. Boom. 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 That character. And I just think she's really freaking cool. So I didn't think about it until after I finished with the sisters, but I saw a picture of her and I was like, why didn't I make my sisters look like Agrias? Because she's just like the coolest person. And I don't want to go back and repaint 1,000 points of sisters now. So what I'm probably going to do is make my Stormcast Eternals in this theme, like silver top, brown and gold bottom, and blue surcoat. And I can't wait to do that because silver and blue just look really good together. But yeah, I absolutely love that character. She doesn't get a whole lot of screen time past Act 2 of a 4-act game because that's where she's really important. But she just always resonated with me as this awesome character that was allowed to be both a woman and an absolute monster combatant. And so I will forever stand Agrias. Silver armor, brown leather, blue cloth. Exactly. It looks so good. It's such a good combination. And they even put her in Final Fantasy XIV because at the end of Final Fantasy Tactics, it's pretty much assumed that all of the protagonists die. They end up going deep underground to stop a god from resurrecting and destroying the world, as is typical with Final Fantasy games. But as they destroy the god, the area they're in just kind of collapses, and they're stuck there. And in Final Fantasy XIV, I may be misremembering this because I didn't play it, I just saw it as a character. The main character of the game kind of assigned guardianship to his most trusted party members, which included Agrias, to act as guardians to test any new warriors who were going into that area to see if they were worthy of killing the god that the Final Fantasy Tactics crew sealed away. Uh-oh. The camera went. Why did the camera go? Oh, there it goes. It's back. So I didn't know this until like a week ago, but they've actually redesigned Agrias so she's a Final Fantasy XIV boss, and they gave her some of her iconic attacks again, and it was just kind of cool seeing it in like modern day interpretation versus the low resolution, you know, PlayStation 1 era graphics. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do my my Stormcast Eternals in theme for her. Goodness gracious, this shoulder pads are hard, man. Especially with this trim on them, is difficult. Hopefully by the time I'm done it'll look good, but it's really hardcore into that ugly face right now. Go more into the ice yellow. But yeah, what always stuns me about this, and this was something I learned from watching like Miniac and whatnot, is that ice yellow makes an incredible highlight for just yellows. Because especially in contrast to the regular yellow you've got on there, it almost reads as a white, which is, you know, exactly what you're looking for. Actually, it might have been Ninjon who did it. I don't know, but in his case, the dude won a Golden Demon bronze, so he can say whatever he wants. He clearly knows what he's doing. Okay. Put more of that highlight up there. A little bit more of that highlight right there. Also, if you like turn-based strategy games, I would strongly suggest giving Final Fantasy Tactics a shot. They remade it for both the mobile phone. Well, actually, they remade it for the mobile phone after converting it from, I think, a PSP remake called War of the Lions, where they added voice acting and cutscenes. And honestly, my biggest issue is that I don't really have time to play it. But I've tried starting it a few times, but every time I've moved to a new phone, I've lost all my data. Final Fantasy X will always be your baby. I actually didn't play Final Fantasy X till I was in college, which was, I think, a few years after it came out. And I remember thinking I wasn't going to like it, but I ended up liking it a lot. That was I mean, like most Final Fantasies, that was an incredibly well-made game. Goofy dubbing aside. But I mean, as with a lot of things, they were working with what they had at the time, and in context, the dubbing in Final Fantasy X was not bad. You remember playing it? Yep, it was a PS2 game. It was the first Final Fantasy on a PS2. Because Final Fantasy IX was the last PlayStation 1 mainline Final Fantasy. And I think they got up to 13 on the PlayStation 2 before they... Or was it 12? They got up to 12 on the PlayStation 2. And then 13 was the first PlayStation 3 one. And that one was heavily criticized for being a corridor simulator. Because most of that game was spent running down straight corridors as the story progressed. The biggest thing I remember from playing Final Fantasy X was that Blitzball was a really well-made sports game in an RPG, and that at the beginning of the game, when Titus or whatever is exploring that underwater ruin, he would open every door by just punching and kicking the shit out of the control panel until the door opened. And I always thought that was really funny. I kind of miss the older Final Fantasy styles with the turn-based. You love 15 and 16, but they're more of an action game than fantasy. From what I understand, the current games are more of what the directors were originally dreaming of. Because, like, that's what they wanted. But, I mean, I grew up with the turn-based version of Final Fantasy with turn-based RPGs, so that's always going to be the style I gravitate to. But I can understand why they moved away from it, because it's a very antiquated way of doing things. Though, admittedly, Baldur's Gate 3 just came out, last year and completely destroyed everyone's expectations. So maybe it's not that antiquated. Titus was not a smart lad. Maybe lack of oxygen, possibly. I don't know, man. It worked. Those doors opened for him when he started doing the kick punch, so he's got to be onto something. At least that's my belief on it. Percussive maintenance does have its points. But you're probably right. There probably is some oxygen deprivation going on there. I mean, Lulu was your first childhood crush. She had beautiful personality. I like the fact that she was more than just fan service. Like, they did a good job with that character. But of course, it's Final Fantasy. They do a good job with most everything. And that's kind of what makes them great. But yeah, there might be something wrong with Titus. I'm not exactly sure, but have you heard that guy's laugh? That is not the laugh of a healthy individual. Admittedly, good scene in context. Makes sense. Just very awkward to watch. Waka was your boy. Yeah, they did a good job making a bro. But no, I grew up on Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, which at the time were 2 and 3 for the Super Nintendo, and Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy VII, and Chrono Trigger. I got to be a kid around the time that Squaresoft was going through that renaissance of making nothing but straight heat bangers. Because I'm a little older. I'm a lot older. Because, yeah, you missed out on the time. The laugh is more of a coping mechanism. Exactly. Like, in context, the scene makes total sense. Because he wasn't being goofy and awkward. He was trying to help a character who was clearly in a lot of emotional pain. But the way that it's rendered is very silly. Final Fantasy X was your first video game? Well, then it makes sense that you have such strong personal feelings for it, because that is definitely a strong way out of the gate. One of the first games I played was the first Super Mario Brothers on the Nintendo. But one of the first RPGs I ever saw was Final Fantasy II. And I remember being blown away with visually how the combat system looked. Which by today's standards is clunky. A bunch of guys lined up on one side of the screen, bunch of clip art of monsters lined up on the other side, and they would flash and it would do damage and yada yada yada, but it just looks so cool for, like, an 8-year-old's eyes. Possibly younger, I do not recall. But yeah, I was a huge fan of the Final Fantasy series. I kind of stopped with 8. 8 was the last one that I purchased. And that was because I was just severely disappointed in 8 with some of the gameplay changes they made. But from what I understand, it's actually a really good game. I was just too young and impatient to really appreciate it. But yeah, another game, if you're interested in playing one of Squaresoft's best, is definitely Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger remarkably holds up today, as far as I'm concerned. The game is good. It's compelling. The world is compelling. The pacing is really good. I don't think you can go wrong by playing Chrono Trigger for the first time. It's on Steam. It's dirt cheap. A child's imagination to fill in the blanks. No wonder I gravitate to role-playing games. Yeah, that's a big part of it, and that's why I think I enjoy painting Warhammer and reading about Warhammer than I do playing Warhammer. Because the way that Warhammer is played does not match what goes on in my brain. And since it's all out there physically, I can't exactly fill in the blanks with my head. But when I'm, painting the minis and deciding how they look, I have all sorts of those awesome scenarios going on in my head of what this looks like on the battlefield, But yeah, I feel like once you kind of lose that sense of wonder and that sense of imagination, then you're kind of losing a bit of yourself. Because everyone had it. Everyone had it. They may not have had, like, the perfect picture of what was going on in their head, but everyone had an idea of what they thought it should be. 15 is one of my favorite stories ever, has some of the coolest summon fights. Final Fantasy is one of my favorite game series, always has great characters and stories. Sometimes the fan service is a bit much, but I get it. Well, you gotta remember, like, Japan as a culture is definitely its own thing. And so the Final Fantasies were trying to sell to an audience, right? And that audience at the time craved more fan service, craved more of this, that, or the other. And as the country has kind of grown, and as their video game industry has kind of grown, there's been less and less of that. I mean, something Doit or Swift has talked about a lot on her stream is that, oh my goodness, my back, is that she loves Persona 5. And Persona 5 is just an incredible game. But she has this issue with it because one of the characters you can date is your teacher. And just everything about that feels wrong. Yeah, I mean, when the games are made by men who live in a country that's very repressed, that'll happen. But yeah, like in Persona, you can date your teacher, and on a lot of levels, that's wrong. But because you're the protagonist in the game, it's treated as okay. Or at least there are no real punishments for it because you're encouraged into doing it once that whole thing starts. And it's just like, that's skeevy on a lot of levels. Yeah, she's a fairly attractive younger teacher, I believe. And you find out that she works as an escort or something. I don't remember the exact story, but I know that it's not acceptable. And it's not okay. For a lot of reasons. So the fact that they added that in the game and made it a major plot point that you can go down is like, Japan, what are you doing? This is not the kind of fantasy you want to indulge. But that game was also made, golly, almost 7 years ago now, I think. And while it still wasn't okay then, I'm hoping that the Japanese game industry has grown a bit since then. And that when Persona 6 finally comes out, we see a little bit better decision-making on the part of Atlas. They love teachers and moms, it's a common theme? Yeah. I mean, that was kind of Lulu's whole thing, too, was that she was supposed to be kind of the gentle mom. To contrast how dark and brooding her character physically looked. But yeah, let's talk about something other than Japan's obsession with teachers and moms. I don't know. I still recommend Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy Tactics to everyone who has played the Vidya and likes Squaresoft games, because they are just so good. Especially if you like Akira Toriyama's art, because Chrono Trigger is Akira Toriyama. He designed everything in that game. And it clearly shows. Okay. The non-metallic metal gold is done on this guy. I have not played 16. I honestly forgot it came out. I want to play 14 because I keep hearing 14 is a stellar game, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I can't believe I got all the non-metallic metal done. Now I've just got to not mess it up as I go through and put in red in places. I'm gonna mess it up. That's a given. Okay, so next step. let's do some red in the places that need some red. Because if I recall right, the Eye of Horus is red with black line art. And I know that his stomach plate, 16 was beautiful being on next gen, let them go crazy with the graphics. I mean, every one of their, not to take away from it at all, because you're absolutely right, but like every Final Fantasy game is kind of a huge step forward visually because Square Enix is just known for that. That's their thing. They have the best Titan fight. At some point, I'll probably take a look at those games, but they haven't been able to keep my interest because they've moved away visually from things I enjoy and care about. But that is purely a me problem. Okay, let's move back to the crappy brush for a minute. Because I'm just doing some basic blocking, so I don't need to have ultra precision. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with this red and almost immediately screw it up. Just watch me. Because as I said earlier, I don't exactly have a great view of what I'm doing. Absolute silence. Okay. That turned out okay, I think. They have pixel versions of the characters sometimes in 16. Yep. That also harkens back to an old style. Okay. At some point I'm going to have to do that flesh, but I'm scared. In the meantime, though, let's see if I can get... I should have done this before painting the gold trim. Red Eye of Horus right here. Very cute that they have pixel version of the characters. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's always something I've enjoyed was like chibi versions of the characters. It's had that same energy to me as like in Bollywood movies. They have the musical dance number at the end where everyone comes out and takes a bow and you get to see they're all still okay because it was all a movie. Also, I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but have you heard of what Indian cinema is like? I found this out when RRR was becoming really big, but like Indian cinema is its own cultural experience in like the best way possible. And that the reason why their movies tend to be like big and bombastic and have like dance numbers and just absolutely crazy scenes is because you don't go to the cinema and sit down and kind of like quietly appreciate it. Indian cinema is like going to a party. And the movie is on in the background for people to react to. And that's wild to me. Because I've always been brought up, you don't talk in the theater. But it's definitely not that case in India. You're supposed to, like, live and die with the crowd as you guys watch the movie. And that's such a neat contrast to what, we're used to in the United States. Or in the West, or whatever. Okay, I'm just gonna have to do the gold on this again. That's fine. Okay, I should at least watch the Titan Lost fight because it's perfect. That's super neat. Okay, so the red on this is looking pretty darn good. I'm definitely going to go brighter. I have another red that I'm going to use. This is just kind of a base coat of like a dark red. So that when I work my way up, it'll be on a red base instead of on a black base. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to redo the non-metallic metal gold around the belt because there's just so many tight areas that I really can't reach. And that's a-okay. Also, I know it's a bit late into the stream, but how's the music volume? One of the things I noticed, very interesting to see the different roots of movies. Yeah, I love it. Before I became a high school teacher, one of the things I wanted to do was be a cultural anthropologist. So learning and studying different cultures has always been something I've really enjoyed. But yeah, how's the music volume? I noticed when I was doing sound tests it was low, so I tried to boost it a bit. Gotta figure out what I'm doing for Mr. Bellicor. Change the bone to maybe a group blue-gray, just a black. If you do just a black, it's gonna be really flat. Black and white in general make models and make details flat. So if you're going to go to a black, then you might want to go to like a blue-black. So that way, you still have some sense of color in there. Once I learned Japanese media draws back from Kabuki theater, a bunch of the props made sense. Yeah, right? A bunch of the tropes made sense. Exactly. That's something I want to do one of these days, is just sit in on a Kabuki theater performance, even if I don't understand anything. Yeah, black and white desaturate any color they mix with. In some cases, that's cool if that's what you're going for, but if you're just using it against nothing else, then it's really hard to build up to, or down from. Okay, so now I'm using bold Pyrrhic Red, which is like an incredibly rich red color from Pro Acryl. And I've heard a lot that people hate the dropper bottles from Pro Acryl, and I kind of get it because they leave a little bead of paint on the top. The only models I straight white on are my Apothecary Termies and my Purifiers. I get that. If you really want to add some depth to them, though, go off of like, or only go up to gray and then highlight the whites, or start with like a blue and then highlight to white, because it brings so much more depth to the piece. Here, one moment, let me see if I can pop this guy. So like, the Chapter Master that I was working on a while ago, I redid him, and now his helmet actually started off as like a McCrag blue, and I worked my way up to white on him. And you can definitely kind of see that it really gave his helmet a whole lot more depth of color than just white. You know what I mean? And so I'm pretty darn happy with how that turned out. And it's definitely kind of washed out because of being on this camera with all this light, but I think it looks a whole lot better than just straight white. And that's something that I also did with I gotta figure out how did Crow's Shoulder. How did I do Crow's Shoulder? I haven't looked at Castellan Crow in a while. One moment. I can look it up. I can look it up. When did I work on Castellan Crow for you? There he is. I found him. Oh, dang. Honestly, I don't remember. I think that's what I did. I started with like a soft gray, like a blue-gray, and then I worked my way up to a white. As you can see, kind of on the left side, closer to the shoulder shield, that it's kind of bluish. I think I used what for me is light gray from Vallejo, so like a Fenris gray would work. And then I just kind of gently went over it with white, and that's why it looks like the way it does. Because, yeah, you don't really get too many good shots of it. But yeah, that's basically a Fenris gray, and then it's gently blended into a white. Yeah, he's such a cool model, man. That was a good choice. Thanks for letting me paint that one. Does look like a light blue mixed into a light gray towards a white. I don't remember if there's any blue in it. What I think it just is that this light gray does have a decent amount of blue in it. But you're probably right, Darkvolt. You know more about art than I do. Okay, so now that he's got like the red base coat, this is not a very... It's what you do for your Ravenwing bike wings. Makes sense. But yeah, you can see that this red is not a super vibrant red. It's kind of boring to look at. And it's the red that I used to use, but with my wet palette... So I can pull this in. That would be... Come on, wet palette. Focus. Oh no, water got everywhere. That's not good. You can kind of see, like, the bottom color is the red I was using, and the top color is the red I will be using. You're trying to copy the way you did the sword on Be'lakor, but to a lighter degree? Again, I don't remember how I did that. I think I painted it as a base with one color, and then I just dry brushed the other colors on it. I legitimately don't remember. This is the problem with me not recording, is I lose access to all the things that I did. And since I kind of do a lot of these things in a fugue state, it means I completely forget the techniques I use. Unless I do them over and over and over again. So I'm kind of really happy that I'm going to have... Oh dear, yeah, those paints are cacked now. I should not have tilted the wet palette. I'm really happy that I've got this recording it. You already started painting the sword, just copying that. Fair enough. I'm really happy that I'm recording this, because otherwise I would have no clue how I did half the things I've done for this Abaddon. Okay, so I want the darkest recesses to remain that kind of dull red. And in the meantime, I'm going to try and pull as much of it as I can towards the center, and I'm just going to sacrifice the gold at this point. It's not really doing me much good anymore down here. I'll just redo it. Start building back towards the center to create a much more vibrant red. And hopefully that will read the right way. I mean, to be honest, it already is, so that's definitely a good sign. I want to be home already, like 2 to 3 afternoons to work on Bellacore. Understandable. I mean, that's kind of why I almost immediately got down here and started streaming, is it gives me some focus, and it helps me occupy the time while I paint this guy. But I have a friend coming over a little afternoon, which is about when I'm going to hop off. But, I'm also going to be working on him then. My plan is to get him pretty much done today so I can focus on the base tomorrow morning. And that way he'll be done by Friday. And I'm going to have to bring all these guys to work, specifically because I don't want to have to run home and grab them. So I guess I'm just going to be in the Best Buy with a ton of, or with some really high quality painted 40K minis. That's what I did at like 6 a.m. I woke up early to work on them a bit more. Yeah. With my current hours, that's kind of what I do. I wake up early, I see my wife out because she goes to work around 8, and then, like I said, I either study for more network or more technology exams, or I work on mini painting, depending on how my brain is feeling that morning. And, especially with this competition coming up, my brain has been very fixated on doing mini painting. So if you do decide to get Pro Acryl, I will say the one thing about them that kind of is weird. Okay, let's see what you got there, Darkvolt. The one thing that's weird about Pro Acryl is it goes on really watery and beady, and then it becomes more solid and smooth. Okay, so what do we got here? What's happening here? That's not what I'm looking for. So, Discord app. Bam! Yeah, look at that. That looks great. Let's see. Look at them death wings. Raven wings, that's it. You base coated the wings in white, then wash them with a mix of Talisar Blue, Black Legion Contrast, and water. Then mix them in with white to start the layering from mid to light tones, just mixing to a full white at the end. Yeah, I haven't used a lot of my Pro Acryl, to be honest, other than the red, because I still have white and bone color from Vallejo, so I kind of want to finish those out. But yeah, that's a really good looking, cool white you've got going there. That looks fantastic. Okay. Let's get back to making the most vibrant... Oops, that's a very wet brush. Let's go back to making the most vibrant red I can. Yeah, that bold titanium white is definitely a lot runnier than I expected. But it also does create an absolutely brilliant white. And I'll be honest, because of the texture of the paint, Pro Acryl blends in a way that absolutely hurts my brain. It's so good at it. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I want to win one of the competitions, is I want the Pro Acryl. I want to have a full range of their paint set so that I can just lean directly into it. I'm trying to figure out some more blending to make Bellacore's wings a little more than just black, but the more I look at them, the more I go black. Okay, so what you start with, this is just purely suggestion, so take it or leave it. But if you really want to make it be more than just black, mix in some blue with the black and dry brush that over. And then mix in some white with that mixture and dry brush over. And just kind of keep adding more white and dry brushing less and less and less until you have you know, more and more highlights. That's how I do my blacks and mix them up into a much nicer color. Is I make them like blue black, and then I just slowly add white until white becomes the dominant color. And that works really well for making the black have some really nice depth to it. Unfortunately, you can't do that right now, but that's what I suggest. And it doesn't have to be a lot of blue, just enough to give it the slightest hint of blue within the black. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and just redo this entire thing. I've cacked it pretty badly. What kind of blue would you recommend? Whichever blue whatever the darkest blue you have. You can use McCrag blue. McCrag blue works fine, but the darker blue you start with, the closer to a black it will be, but it'll still have that richness of that blue in there. It just does such a great job of creating more blue-black depth than just black. You know what I mean? I think, what's his name? Ninjon, not Ninjon, the other one, Miniac. He actually suggests using scale 75 deep blue as a black highlight because it reads dark enough, but it still has that depth of color to it. But yeah, you want to start dark and work your way up with like a white. Okay, let's see if I can non-metallic metal my way out of this mess. Because everything got hit by the red and now it looks terrible. Okay, I'm not even on camera anymore. I could probably do a 1-to-1 mix of black Templar and scales to make it a black blaze blue. You can give it a shot. I don't know how dark Croxagore scales is. I haven't seen that color. But, like I said, it should still primarily look... It should look kind of like... It should almost look like an incredibly deep purple, if you do it right. Because it'll be so dark that you can only see the hints of blue in there. And that kind of gives it an almost purple tone. Let's use some of the improver. That in there. I'm struggling with this right now, guys. I should have definitely waited to do the gold on here instead of having to cover it back up. Blue and purples naturally read as a darker color, while yellows read as a bright color, which helps for shading without mixing in value changes. It's the same blue that's on my course weapons as deep purple. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, see, this is why I enjoy having you guys here, because my knowledge of color theory is bad. So having people with better knowledge of it is good. Let me go ahead and paint in these. Get rid of some of that darkerness to it. Because we still got this very dark brown yellow coming through. But thankfully, against the darkest brown, reading is more of a purple. Okay, I would not say it's bad. You've accumulated knowledge through many sources of trial and error. Yes, that is true. It is incomplete and imbalanced. That's the phrase I'm going to use. Because like you said, it's all through personal experience, which is much more limited than a formal education. And it's all through limited personal experience, because all I've really worked with are the colors I have and the YouTube videos I've seen. Okay. Okay, this is turning out pretty okay. Big issue is a lot of my paints are contrast, and they're a little weird with a dry brush. Yeah, you don't use contrast paints with dry brush. Contrast is great for one thing. If you want to do a contrast like that and create depth, what you want to do is dry brush it first with like a white or a complementary color, and then put the contrast over it, because slap chop is a remarkably good method for getting some very quick depth to your minis. Trying to use contrast as a dry brush is not... You're just hurting yourself with that. I mean, kudos for trying, but hopefully that taught you that it's a bad idea. Wet blending. Oh gosh, yeah, wet blending is another whole thing. That's something else that I'm not very good at, but I've seen a lot. Is wet blending actually doable with contrast paints? Because I always figured contrast paints were too runny. But I guess if you really know what you're doing, then you should be able to do it, right? Okay, this is too runny. Oops, I've already put the contrast on. Oh well, I can't really do wet blending because of my environment and paints dry too fast. Yeah, I've seen in some cases people buying humidifiers specifically for that reason, that they keep near their desk. Well, I mean, you can still use the contrast, you can still work off of them. It's just that you're making life more difficult on yourself, and since you've already passed that step, the next thing to do is to work with what you got. I mean, we're painting plastic toy figures or resin toy figures. Whether you do it right or wrong doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's yours. So if you manage to get a good look out of contrast paints and dry brushing, then good on you. Okay, that looks better. That looks considerably better. I'm going to use larger brushes for layering. Yeah, that's another thing. Bellicor was another model that I wanted to buy, but he just never hit the top of my list like some of these other guys. Because he is a very cool model, but there is a lot to him. It's kind of why, even though I want to buy a Magnus, I'm scared to paint a Magnus. There's just so much to that model. So I guess like everything else, if you break it down enough, it becomes a very doable project, right? Okay, now before I put that away, is there any more red that needs to be done in this guy? I did dry brush the Croc Square scales onto my Grey Knight Libby since I ran out of... great. It's not work. I thought about commissioning him through you, but I wanted to try, and it's actually one of my do one of my big pieces on your own. That's a really good way of looking at it too. Doing your own big pieces helps you learn how to do the big pieces. Okay. He's getting closer to done, guys. I got a red that reads really light and big. What color is his is the eye on Abaddon? Because I honestly don't know. Like, I got the big part, but not... Whoops, that's not what I want. I'm on Games Workshop's website. I'm looking specifically now at... wrong faction. At the color of, like, the eye pupil on his shoulder. Where is Mr. Abaddon? There's Mr. Abaddon. Let's see what Games Workshop did so I can copy them shamelessly. Oh, okay. They actually went yellow towards the center and made his eye kind of a burgundy color. Be brave and tackle that inside hood. Yeah, that's the next plan actually. But let's go ahead and do the burgundy for the eye. Oh, that's way too much water. I'm curious how this is going to look. Actually, that's already pretty close to the color we want already. But you know what? Actually, I wonder, maybe I can add some black in there. Okay, my plan for attacking the inside of that hood is to make it, like, exceptionally bright behind, especially since I have this nice control on this brush. I wonder. No, no, no. Failure, failure. Mayday, mayday. I wonder if I can do this. Yeah, but no, the inside of the hood is definitely the next part of the project for me. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I like how that looks. I like it. I like it. That's going on there. Whoops, that's completely... That's going on there. Let's go ahead. Yeah. Okay. More yellow into that red. This is why a super fine brush tip is useful. This is why a super fine brush tip is useful. Yeah, that, and you'll learn so much by working on him that the next one you do will be even better. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing the commissions that you've given me, and I enjoy the money that you've been giving me. But I also enjoy seeing people, like, learn new techniques and get good. Like, improve their skills and whatnot. So the fact that you're taking this opportunity to really try and challenge yourself is really freaking cool. There we go. Look at that. Just dry brushing some burning eye right there. Getting that nice contrast. Okay, hopefully this is coming through clear on the video feed. I'm not really paying attention to how bright it is right now because I just really want this to look good. There we go. Look at that eye. Look at that eye. Ah, okay. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some ice yellow with the red that I've got, so it makes this brilliant... That's a pink. I don't want a pink. I'm going to go more... That orange looks terrible. Okay. Okay. Maybe I do want a pink. I'm going ice yellow and pink. Ice yellow and pink. We're going to go ice yellow and pink. Or maybe I should actually go pure white. I've definitely improved over the month. That makes me happy. I ain't winning any contests soon, but if I compare my first Grey Knight painted with my most recent one, there's a big improvement in details and smoothing paint. Exactly. See, it's repetition. It's reps. It's doing all the stuff. And you're doing it. And eventually, you're going to paint a mini that'll make you go, wow, I can't believe I painted that. And then you're going to keep doing that, and it's going to keep feeling awesome. And then you're going to start buying more minis, and then you're going to realize that you can't afford this hobby anymore. And then you're going to try and get a better job so that you can afford this hobby. And soon you're going to be like an IT director, and someone's going to ask you, what motivated you to get this job? And you're like, I need more money for my Warhammers. Oh my goodness, I've only used this titanium white a few times, and holy crap. Wish me luck, guys. Okay, so we're gonna go way back in there and really start with this bright white, or this bright reddish. And what's gonna happen is, even though right now it's base coating to this kind of ugly pink, is I'm going to eventually work my way back out into what's going to be a much better looking red. It sounds familiar, but you can't place it. Yeah, I wonder who I'm referencing here. I wonder who is being talked about in this situation right here. Admittedly, my teaching job was feeding my plastic crack hobby pretty well, but it was not helping my health. So my reasons for quitting were a little bit more related to my overall health. Okay, we're switching over to a slightly less valuable brush. I can really futz with this a bit. Okay, you ready for an ugly phase? Because we're going to be in an ugly phase for a minute. Holy mackerel. I don't even know if you guys can see what I'm doing. I need to pay the bills. Yeah, the economy. Nope, Warhammer, dear Lord. Yeah, right? It's like that one bit where someone's asking, oh my god, how much is this army? About $2,000. $2,000? 2,000 points. Oh, thank God. I thought it was $2,000. Yeah, about that. Okay. This is going to be funny looking. He is now going to be Abaddon of Pepto. He's going to get that initial pink coating. I pay way more than 2,000 euros on my collection. Yeah, tell me about it. I'm pretty far up there too. This is definitely the hobby I have stuck with the longest. Generally, I had a running joke for a long time in my early adulthood where I spend about $1,000 and then get bored. I've been stuck with Warhammer for far longer than $1,000. Okay, so we've got this awful pink on the inside now. Time to lurk. I'll pick your brain for Babelacor. Yeah, Mommy Dova, I know for a fact you spent more than that. It's not a lie, but that is a gross underestimation of how much you spent on Warhammer. Okay. But anyway. Actually, no. I'm going to hit this with a hairdryer so I'm not messing with wet paint. I'll be right back because, oh no, my paintbrush hit the ground tip first. Where is it? Here. Oh, it's not. Oh, yeah, it's right there. God. Okay. He's back. Now, as far as I can tell, he's got that purple going around him. So now the next thing to do is to go ahead and start blending in that red. And again, this is something I've never done before, so we'll see how good or bad this looks. Because that's kind of the worry for me, is that... especially because I wasn't able to do the airbrushing stuff, that his head is going to look really stupid. Admittedly, even if it does, it's not like I can't fix it. Yeah, like, I understand what I'm supposed to be doing here, it's just a matter of whether or not I can pull it off. Because the space is so constricted and limited. Hopefully between the better brush, decent brush control, and just general technique, I can do an okay job with it. Because, yeah, what's going to happen, unfortunately, I think, is that he's going to end up having a lot of weird areas that probably look like they should have had this glow, and I wasn't able to get it just right. But I think because of the blending that I'm doing and that I'm becoming capable of, I should be able to finagle it at least a little bit. Is this even on camera? Yeah, it's dead center. Very cool. Okay, so now he's got what looks to be an adequate glow.
Very threatening-ish red glow. Thankfully, due to how thin and smooth this goes on, I was able to make it work for now for the back of the head. Go back to the other one because I really don't need the nicest brush for this. What I will need the nicest brush for is the actual blending. I kind of feel like I'm painting blind. Let's see if I can get back there and really get that red in there. Yeah, this is definitely one of these things where I wish I could have done this before I put him in there, but his head is kind of embedded behind the cowling, and so you can't really remove it. But it definitely is one of those, it is what it is thing, right? What I'm going to do on this side, actually, is I'm going to go ahead, since he's turned that way, and really overdo it with painting his face red, and I'll blend my way back. So I will admit that that red on the one side of the face does look really cool. Like, it's not the look I was going for, but that does look really neat. And I can kind of touch it up to make it have a lot more finesse to it than it currently does. Do that on this side too. I can be really extreme with some of these colors to help bring out that contrast. And then I think the sensible thing to do would be to mix a little bit of the flesh tone with this red, so that it kind of creates, you know, that blend going on. Fortunately, I'm not saturating as well as I'd want it to, but there's still areas where it's not quite. Okay. Now I suppose the next thing to do is I need to figure out what color I really want his face to be, because it is supposed to be kind of gaunt. So what I might do is I might go back to a purple, like a darker purple, and mix that together to really base coat his face. And now that I've got a general idea with the blocking, I can go back over it with like a slow blend until it's the color that I want it to be. So, let's see what I can do. Because especially since he's supposed to be like a force of chaos or whatever, I actually want his color to be more gaunt than lively. And I'm almost going to think like the only red that's going to come out of this is going to be from the light that's hitting his head. From behind. I think that might be how this is going to work, but we shall see. Okay, he's not even visible on camera. So we're really going to knock down his skin tone. Very dark purple. And then we're going to build it back up. And so yeah, you can still see that little bit of red in the corner, but not as much. Okay, and the next thing I think I'm going to want... Would it be Rakarth Flesh? I think it might be Rakarth Flesh. I don't know. I always have a hard time painting like chaos skin tones because they always seem so pallid compared to what I normally do. But we'll give this a shot.
Good morning, Abaddon. Your cheeks are very rosy. Thanks. I installed a new LED strip in my hood. Exactly. I will say one of my I've watched the Hammer and Bolter series that they have on Warhammer Plus, and one of my least favorite things about it is the fact that they introduced Abaddon the Despoiler so early. Like they hit all of the major characters or most of the major characters in Warhammer very quickly, and it's like, okay, well I guess that's now their established looks slash voice slash everything else, and that kind of cheapened it a little bit for me. But of course, that was just me whinging. So that is what it is. Now, we can start in here with it where it's really hitting flesh. And this initial shot is going to be a lot rosier than I want it to, but that's fine. Because we'll eventually go back to just the Rakarth flesh without the red. But I added the red in there specifically. Man, his facial features are so distinct for such a small mini. He's going to be a lot of fun to kind of block in. Okay, now I've got to go back to the detail brush. Mix in some more of that Rakarth flesh. I can start taking away from that red. Sounds like they panicked with how long they think they had before getting canceled. Possibly. My understanding is that the shows didn't exactly have like a great budget, and of course they had to pull in viewers as quickly as possible, and so they went with a very stylized animation style. And to some people that really detracted because it was a very limited animation, where it primarily was where it was low frame. And some people really hated that, especially since they were trying to get over the fact that Games Workshop punished a lot of independent creators who were making very high quality animation, you know? And honestly, I think for what they were doing, they were largely successful. It looks good, but it also looks really limited in its animation. And so, if you don't know animation, then it looks cheap. If you know what they were going for, then a lot more of it can be forgiven. You know what I mean? Okay. But for a lot of people, it just looked very cheaply produced compared to what they were getting with, you know, Astartes and Sodas and all those other guys who were making just absolute masterpieces. Though admittedly the stories that Sodas and Astartes and whatnot were trying to tell were a lot more limited in scope. They were, you know, Plague Marines fight Ultramarines in building. Imperial Fists hold off Iron Warriors. Death Corps of Krieg do Death Corps of Krieg things. Whereas the story with Abaddon was about a squad of Chaos Terminators trying to find an ancient relic that would allow them to have access to the Webway after being told about it from a dying Pharaon, or whatever. So there was just a lot more going on, plot-wise, in Hammer and Bolter. And so for me, it's somewhat forgivable. And by and large, I actually really liked Hammer and Bolter. Their kill protocol, which was an AdMech one, was absolutely fantastic. One of the best. Okay, I don't know if this was successful. I think it looks okay, but it's not quite what I wanted, you know? See where else I can go with this. Okay. Okay. Right back there.
admittedly, I'm also comparing myself to like the super high quality jobs done by people like Jose da Vinci and El Miniaturista, and that's not fair to myself. So I'm not really doing myself any favors right now.
Discovery Houston, press to ATO.
Liftoff of mission 41D, the first flight of the Horus Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
I gotta say, one of my other biggest problems is that I'm really tired of... Actually, you know what? I got a glove. I'm just gonna wear the glove. I don't want my hand oils to ruin this guy. One moment.
Discovery, go and throttle up. Discovery 4 computers.
And actually, I'll be right back. I gotta switch out the laundry a little. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay, now that I have a glove on, I won't be actively destroying and wiping off the paint that I've worked so hard to put on here. Okay, so... Actually, that shading is looking a whole lot better now that I stepped away from it and came back. I think, to be completely honest, though, a lot of it just has to do with the fact that, what you call it? Pro Acryls paints just do such a good job of blending layers versus just being stuck with one color. Comparing yourself to more experienced artists who submit their work on a professional capacity, your contrast entry is not fair to yourself. Look at your stuff for inspiration, not as a base minimum. That is true. That is incredibly true. And I agree with you 110% there. You know, it's like practicing football and then complaining that you're not as good as Lionel Messi, right? Or practicing boxing and wondering why you're not as good as Mayweather, or any other example of top athlete and why you're not as good as top athlete. I say as someone who doesn't watch football at all. But my point stands. It really is just like, have some perspective to what you're doing. I'm honestly not a Golden Demon winner, so why should I be comparing myself to Golden Demon winners? Instead, I should just strive for the best that I personally can do. And right now, the best that I can do involves some more gentle blending back here. And some more gentle blending up here. Okay, so a goal trying to reach that goal right now. The goal is to make a nice glow to dead skin transformation. Very true. And to be honest, I think I nailed it. I think it looks fantastic. So I'm going to keep working on cleaning it up a bit. Just like I'm doing right now with the cable. Because something that jawline transition's nice. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. A little bit more of the Red Hearth flesh as opposed to the Druchii Violet. Let's see what that does. I mean, something else I gotta remind myself of is I don't use these colors very often, so I'm kind of spitballing and experimenting as I'm doing this, which is definitely creating a whole mood. Okay, I don't even know if this is in focus. I'm sorry if the camera's being wonky and it's out of focus. But I'm so zeroed in on trying to make this look good that I've stopped paying attention to the camera. Okay, oh, I'm hitting the light, thank goodness. I thought I was hitting the, I have made a mistake, though. I've accidentally made his, put so many layers of paint on his face that I think I've accidentally covered up his eyelid. So now I can't see where his eyelid ends and his eye begins. On his left eye. Like it's just one big ugly mass. That's okay, though. Let's see what I can do here. Oh! I accidentally nailed it! I'm so happy! The other one is a complete shot in the dark that I absolutely nailed. Heck yeah! I just took a random stab at it and got it mostly right. That's cool. Okay. Time to ruin it. Or also hit it perfectly. I'm not touching that again in a million years. It's a very faint eyeball, but it is in there. Okay. I really want to emphasize that since this part is farthest away from light, that's his natural skin tone. Okay. Yeah, doing eyes always does feel like a coin toss. There's apparently ways to do them really well, and I just don't know them yet. And I haven't practiced them enough. But there are legitimately ways to do, like, really, really good eyes. Okay, honestly, I'm scared to do anything else with this head. Like, short of doing the hair, I'm really anxious to mess around with this head anymore. Because I think the red in the background looks good. I think the cabling looks good. Oh, that's an ear! That's what that is. It's an ear with earrings. Okay, I think, well, this is going to become an earring. This kind of got washed out as a headpiece, so I think I'm going to mess with that just a bit. But like everything else, I settle with just dark washing my eyes. I don't want the stress of painting eyeballs. I get it entirely. Like, I don't want to mess with it either. I'm scared to. But, you know, if I'm trying to paint display models, I really can't not do it, right? Okay. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with that head. I'm pretty happy with how that head turned out. So I'm going to stop there on the head. What I am going to do right now is mix some purple and black again. And I'm going to go ahead and do his hair. Because Abaddon's hair is like a fiery red, which makes it funnier knowing that he's a ginger. But the way I do red is I start with a purple for the shadow, and then I build up. towards something else. In this case, that something else is going to be a fiery orange by the time I'm done with it. I completely forgot that Abaddon was red-headed. I wonder if that means he's Irish, which would be even funnier. But we're just going to start with this purple base. I'm going to let it dry since it's very watery. And then I'm going to start streaking it in red and then eventually in orange. I like to believe Abaddon's hair is a trophy from an Eldar Banshee. I mean, that works too. Especially given that, you know, he's been around for 10,000 years. He has to have fought some Dark Elf or some Eldar at some point. Okie dokie. So there we go. It's now been hair dried, and now I'm actually going to move back to the Citadel paintbrush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some of this red in with the dark purple I just did, and I'm just going to start streaking it. Now this is another part where I kind of struggle a bit because I can never keep it in the lines, because they do like this flowy sculpt of the hair. And it makes it really weird because it just kind of transitions. It doesn't really stay in a line or in like a flow, you know what I mean? But we're going to do our best tonight. That red in there to make it darker. Across here. Okay. Okie dokie. That red into the dark purple. Try not to hit the shoulder pad. That's another thing. I'm honestly not looking forward to doing that Talon of Horus either, because I'll be honest, my non-metallic metal game for not gold is kind of weak. It'll be a great chance to learn, I suppose. Okay. What else we can do here? Like I've left an awful lot of purple, which I actually don't want to do, especially near the top. Blend it a little better. Use some watered down versions of it. Actually, let's do some flow improver, mix it in there. Get it really watered down. I'll start using that to fill in the gaps, because I don't want the purple to really stand out too much, especially since I'm going up to almost an orange color. But there we go, got that part done. Powered up claw or just metallic? I was considering doing just metallic, but to be honest, a powered up version of the claw might be easier, because I can just do like a dark blue base and then just dry brush it up to a light blue up to a white. That's not a bad idea. I think I might take that. Take that advice. You might have solved my issue for me, because I feel a whole lot more confident doing energy swords than I do actual steel. I still haven't mastered the color variety for steel yet. That would mean more OSL. That is true also. I mean, honestly, given that this is a competition piece, that might be what I have to do anyway, just because, you know, if I want to win, I got to make it look good. And if I want to make it look good, I got to do all the stuff that'll make the judges go, ooh, ah. which probably means more OSL. Thankfully, the OSL for this will be a lot easier simply because it's more out in the open. I'll be completely honest, also, my OSL is weak sauce. I tend to just dry brush colors away from whatever the object is. And he is going to have some OSL simply from the fact that he's going to have a torch underneath him. So, you know. Okay. That actually looks pretty good as is. But no, we're going to go ahead and mix some yellow in there. We're actually going to use the orange yellow of the Abaddon Sunset. That's what I'm looking for. Wow, that ended up being a very rich orange yellow. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, again, gonna hit some of the highlights. And there we go. Even more color brought to it. Okay, more. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen how I do OSL, but it's extremely sloppy. I don't really do great light placement, but I'm also not too worried about it because the way I do OSL tends to look pretty good regardless. Okay. I think that'll do it for the hair. And now we've got a really nice bright, starts out real dark, goes up to like an orange. I think that'll be good. Okay, I guess onto the pipes. I think I'm going to follow my own advice, and I'm going to go almost like a dark purple-black with the pipes. And then work my way backwards from there. Oops, way out of focus. Sorry about that. And then I got to figure out what I'm going to do for Draknyan. I'm not sure, but it is a really cool looking sword. So I might follow the box art, which is just like this horrific haunted blue with all sorts of etheric energy. I don't know yet. Okay. I mean, the pipes were already kind of a dark blue anyway, which was the plan. I originally painted them all with a with that deep blue that I have, and it turned out pretty okay. So I think by going just down to a darker, this is like a dark purple black, that'll just allow me to build it back up, which is exactly what I'm hoping to do. Got these cables coming out here. My biggest worry now is that since I've got so much done, I'm going to accidentally hit something that I've already painted and then have to redo it. And it's like, I don't remember the recipe. No. But thankfully, knock on wood, everything's been pretty hunky-dory so far. Okay. And that's all I'm going to get non-metallic metalled. Oh yeah, that's something else that I need to do, or don't know if I want to do. I saw people, they take these vents on the back of the Terminator plate, and they paint them like a white color, and then they airbrush over like a red up top and an orange down at the bottom. I'm strongly considering doing that, but my airbrush and my airbrush skills are nowhere near that accurate, so I'm kind of anxious to do something of that detail. I'm probably going to do it, but I'm just going to be scared about it. Like a heat effect, yeah. Actually, let me find the YouTube video that I'm specifically referencing. Philon Miniatures, I've talked about him before. He's one of my favorite painters because he makes everything look so damn easy. Where is he? Please tell me. There he is. And he did a video for Abaddon's cloak, and that's actually what I followed for what I'm working on. Oh, did he do a full painting? Oh my god, he did do a full one for Abaddon. Why did I not see this? Kind of happy I didn't see this. It would have spoiled what I'm doing with him. I didn't realize he went ahead and did the full thing. But yeah, so... Okay, there's the front part. Back part. He didn't do his as bright as what I'm thinking about, but... Yeah. Boom. You can see he kind of did a heat effect on his. I didn't realize he actually posted the full video for painting Abaddon. I probably would have followed it a lot more closely, but to be honest, I like what I've got going on. I might take his Drachnyan and I might do his claw effect, but I kind of want to do it fully illuminated. I don't know yet. But you can see he definitely got some really great contrast with that cloak. So I tried to emulate that as best I could. I did not have the colors he did. I kind of like my version too, a lot. So I'm not mad about it. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and really water down the titanium white and thin it down and spray this part. It looks like the one from the GW store. I know, right? He's a really good painter. He's where I got the inspiration for like Typhus and whatnot. Okay, but actually, I'll be honest, what I kind of want to do now is take a break. I'm starting to get a headache. I need to get some water and eat and whatnot. I'm probably gonna hit more of this on my own time, especially since I have a friend coming over in like an hour, and we're probably just gonna hang out and paint and whatnot. But thank you very much for joining me. I'm sleepy. Okay. But yeah, he's turning out great. I'm really appreciating this model, and he really makes me want to buy a Chaos Space Marine army. So I guess what I gotta do is buy the Veterans of the Long War box and like a Rhino and a few Predators or something. Yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm glad you had fun. Hopefully I'll be able to stream at least more consistently, if not more often. Like I said, I'm planning on, whenever my wife does D&D with her friends, just coming down here and streaming, which is either going to be like Tuesdays or Wednesday evenings. So I guess I will see you then. Thank you again for joining me. Actually, let's see. Is there anyone worth raiding right now? Because might as well. Asia. Software. Pirate Software has 11,000 people. I don't need to raid Pirate Software. Let's look and see if anyone in the Warhams is. The Painting Dad is painting. Epic Duck Studios, Crumpy Crane Studio. I don't know who any of these people are. Let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's go ahead and do the Painting Dad since he's doing a Commander Farsight. That looks like fun. /raid. The Painting Dad. Cool. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys later. I hope you guys have fun painting as well. Bye-bye.